In the know, non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Yes, welcome in to your home for daily Vikings entertainment, daily training camp, breakdowns, and fodder. Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. In fact, a bunch of people have recommended. Have you guys seen this new YouTube docuseries that's out?
Oh, Dorktown?
From Dorktown Productions? Yeah.
Yep.
It just came out, part one of like a 7-part Vikings historical breakdown. I'm like 15 minutes into the first part. It's really good.
I haven't seen the Vikings one. I saw their Mariners one like 2 or 3 years ago. That's also was like really critically acclaimed and really good. So they do really good work, but I need to watch the Vikings one. So
this one, it's the Secret Base YouTube channel, and it's the history of the Minnesota Vikings. Episode 1 kind of focuses on the 1960s, and then they kind of go through, but it talks a lot about, at least in the first like 15 minutes, it talks a lot about how it goes through all of the NFL teams over the decades and their plus minus win differential historically in the regular season. And it shows you like the 15, 16, 17 teams that have lost more games than they've won. And it's got this big graph with like all the teams going across. And then it starts to show, here's all the teams that have won more games than they've lost. You know, Packers and Steelers and Cowboys or whatever. And the Vikings last year, the Vikings surpassed the Patriots in win differential historically. They have the third widest win differential gap of any team in NFL history. And these guys who aren't Vikings fans, these guys just found that to be extremely fascinating, as we do, because how do you not have a Super Bowl? Well, what are all the things that have happened in your franchise to be this successful? And they even pointed out, look at some of the other graphs. The Cowboys took a nosedive in the 80s, and the Patriots took a nosedive over here. The Vikings have no nosedives. They just keep like competing and winning, but never winning the whole thing.
And the Patriots were bad for a long time. Like pre-Belichick, they would pop up and down, but they were awful. Hell, the Packers for 2 decades were terrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're exactly right. The Vikings have been mediocre quite a few times, but as we've talked about on this show a lot, if you go back through their history, there are very, very few just awful years, just like absolutely terrible, especially once Bud arrived in 67. Like that team went up and it's never really come down. Les Steckel got fired after 1 year of 3-13 because that was so like, oh my God, this is, this doesn't happen to us. So it's super weird.
All of the coaches since Bud Grant, when they've had the embarrassing season, that's the end, and then a new coach comes in, right? So Les Steckel, yours was the first year, you're gone, Bud comes back. Yeah. And Jerry Burns never really had an embarrassing season, right? He never had like the 3 or 4 win season. And then Denny Green comes in and coaches for like 10 years, and then, there's the embarrassing one, Denny's gone. And then Mike Tice, it was less like they were competitive. The embarrassment was more like Love Boat and behavioral stuff, and then he was gone. Childress, one embarrassing season, gone, and then Frazier, one embarrassing season. Zimmer, again, like didn't really have the embarrassing season. It was just time for a change. So check it out. It's the Secret Base YouTube channel, and I'll probably just like, as long as episodes are coming out, I'll probably just binge them as they come out. But this show, we're going to get into a few things. Judd's camp notes sort of from a distance because they just had a walkthrough yesterday. But the show is presented by our friends at TCL, which has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. TCL makes more than just TVs, too. They offer mobile products, audio devices, and home appliances. TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. You can learn more at TCL.com. And we are here to tell you guys, we have discovered perhaps the best burger in Minnesota at Burger Press in Edina, just off 494 and France Avenue. So this is actual footage right here of old Macadac. This is right. These 2 Nathan's hot dogs did not stand a chance, as you see on the YouTube channel. Some of the most delicious gourmet burgers you're going to find. But I would describe it as sort of fast casual. So it's you get in, you get out, easy for lunch. And one of the coolest parts, this is an independently owned and operated burger shop, owned and operated by Minnesota sports fans. They are Score North fans. This is not a chain. You can support local by going to Burger Press in Edina. Awesome wings as well, crispy chicken sandwiches. You got to try the milkshakes as well. Macadac has to be a little careful with dairy.
Yeah.
But
although you are sometimes careless, let's be honest about Macadac. Like, you take chances I would never take if I have to drive home.
I'm with Phil here. I assume all risks with those foods. Like, like the disclaimer of assume all risks, that is no problem. If that's gonna cause some stomach issues later on, sign me up.
But Macadac knows his problems, Dex, and he's still he's had Tommy John, and he's still trying to throw 105. It's like, Macadac, no.
I will very calculatedly. If it's like a Friday, late in the day or a Saturday, and I know that I can be comfortably home, I will consume dairy, even if it destroys me. So check them out at, again, 494 on France Avenue in Edina. It's Burger Press. It's fantastic. Let us know what you think. Before we get to some Judd's Camp Notes, we also have a random Viking of the week. I want to ask you a question. I was perusing around the national TV shows this morning, just kind of prepping for our shows. Excuse me. And they had one of the ESPN panels with their NFL experts. It was like Diana Rossini and, who's the other one? Damian Woody was one of them, and a couple others. And they had a question on the screen: whose stock in the NFL are you selling high on? And it could be a team or a player. So, like, one of them sold high on Daniel Jones, that they think Daniel Jones' stock is going to come down.
It's a good one.
They had 4 people on the panel. 2 of them, so half the panel, said Minnesota Vikings. They are selling off their Minnesota Vikings stock. They're going to sell high on a 13-win team from last year. Is that a wise football investment to sell high on last year's Minnesota Vikings?
I sort of get it, because the model itself is unsustainable. But here's where I would argue that I think it might not be a wise investment. As we've talked about, if this team has made the advancements both offensively and defensively that we expect, the model won't be replicated. So, like, yes, I get selling the 13-win, 11-1 score games, 8 fourth quarter comebacks. I get selling that, but I don't think that's the model. And so if I was to pick a thing to sell, I am selling all my Detroit Lions stock right here and now, because I don't trust them way more. I trust the Vikings to actually craft a different storyline. 13 wins, no. But I don't think you're going to see, it's not going to be like, well, we got lucky last year and now we're going to become a complete mess. So I would argue that in the NFC North, I'd be selling Detroit, because I don't trust them way more than I don't trust the Vikings.
I mean, if you're just looking at the vacuum of last season's statistics and production, then yes, you would sell the Vikings because they're a 13-win team and a bunch of clutch performances. But right now they're an 8.5-win team in Vegas. So, like, to me, if you're going into this, like, why would you sell something that's an 8.5-win team? If you want to sell something to me, it's a team that's been really good, that's going to come down to earth, or a team that's overachieved consistently. So, like, San Francisco, although a really good roster, has had quarterback issues. I would probably sell San Francisco. I would sell Buffalo Bills, who have been on the doorstep here for 4 straight years, but also a roster that gets older, right? Like, that to me is selling the real stock. It's not selling a team that's projected to be 8.5 wins and maybe clawing to be the division champions.
I think we need to talk to the producers of this ESPN segment here. What do you mean by sell high? If it's survey the NFL fan and media landscape, do you think this is a 13-win team again? Well, I would fire back. How many teams win 13 games in back-to-back seasons historically anyways, besides like the dynasty? But even the dynasty Patriots would bounce down to 12 or 11 from time to time. The Kansas City Chiefs are kind of a dynasty. So basically, if you're not a dynasty, you're probably not winning 13 games in back-to-back seasons. So we can start there. But I think you could sell high on the 13. Do I think they're going to win 13? Probably not. But could they come in above 8.5? Like, I would, like, right now, I'm probably taking the over on the 8.5 that Declan's seeing at some of these sports books. So it kind of depends on where are you selling from. Like, if the stock's at 8.5, I'm buying. If the stock's at 13 on almost any team, I wouldn't buy 13 for the Chiefs. Like, is there a team in the NFL where you would say, hey, I'm going to put my money on them winning 13 games on a 17-game schedule? I don't know.
I feel like the Vikings are a pretty safe stock too. Like, if I'm going to participate in that drill, like, Dex is right. Sell on Buffalo. That takes some intestinal fortitude. And I could see them with Diggs there and sort of weird things. I could see them dropping off for sure. It feels like the Vikings are sort of a boring team to sell on. Like it's like you've got this safe stock sitting there, and one day you're like, I'm going to sell this stock. It's like, no, Daniel Jones makes perfect sense. Yes,
the Vikings are
Daniel Jones makes perfect sense too, because nobody in this league is going to miss Easy Ed Donatel more than Jones.
Yeah, that's I think that Daniel Jones. It depends though. Like, he didn't have that great of a season. He was just sort of competent. Yeah, so
except
I don't know that I would sell stock on. Is he going to get worse? I don't know. He's probably just going to be the same.
Yeah,
I think that contract was a mistake. I would not have given him that contract.
Yeah, and the weird vibes this is the thing too. Like, you pay him, but then Saquon Barkley's sitting over here,
right?
And now, like, would I pay a running back? Probably not. But
but Saquon saying I made him, and Saquon might be right. Look, like Saquon Barkley is might have been the only running back that I saw last year in person at US Bank Stadium where I'm like, whoa. Like, he did some stuff. Like, ordinarily, runs and stuff are fine, but Saquon Barkley with the football is sort of a hybrid type of player.
Yeah.
So I think he would say, hold on a second here. You paid Daniel Jones, but I helped make him. So I'm with you. There could definitely be some weird fallout vibes, especially if Jones struggles now. Just quickly back to what Phil opened the show with, because I suspected this. I looked it up. It's an incredible snapshot of the Vikings, who are going into, I believe, their 62nd season. Okay. Do you realize that they have never had the first overall pick based on ineptitude? Yep. In 1961, as an expansion franchise, they got the first pick. In 1968, because of the Tarkington trade with the Giants, they took Ranieri with the first pick. They have never, by record, in 60 plus years, qualified for the first pick because of their own ineptitude, even in their worst seasons.
Let's hang the banner. Get the flag.
Never done it. Never done it, ladies and gentlemen. And it's training camp.
That's
Before
right.
I die, baby. Before I die.
At least we've never finished last.
Yep, the official
Put it
beer
up on the side of the stadium.
The official beer of our show, and head coach Kevin O'Connell.
Okay, that's right. Kevin O'Connell making the media rounds on KFXN, talking about how fans approach him at Home Depot, saying, "Coach, just one before I die." That's awesome. The Purple Daily Army runs very wide at Home Depot, and we appreciate that.
We are going to attempt to deliver a can of said beer to the coach today, because I think he needs to know how ingrained. Yes, he's got a press conference before the night scrimmage, and I'm going to attempt to get him a can, so he just understands how like ingrained Before I Die is. Like, it's not just. I think he thought, oh, these people are all sort of coming up and saying the same thing. That's sort of odd, and he can't know, right?
I think Judd walking past security at Twin Cities Orthopedic Performance Center with a can of beer in his hand, a little bit disheveled.
I have already informed some of my longtime friends in PR of my intention, and they're like, oh yeah, that's funny, that's cool.
Dude, I was telling you this the other day when I was at camp on Monday or whatever day it was, and you were kind of showing me, because that's the first time I had been at the Mankato facility for a decade, but this is the first time I had been inside the ropes with you as a credentialed media member at this facility. So I didn't really know, like, okay, how can you get over to that side? You got to go through security here. And then some of the security guards kind of just like, they don't really know who's supposed to go where. So I got blocked from an area where I was actually supposed to have access to at one point. But because it was 90 degrees outside, I had a bottle of Smart Water. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Smart Water has transitioned a lot of their plastic bottles to like the silver cans. Like they literally look like, like a Coors Light can or something that you would find with the twist top. Right. So I'm walking back after getting rejected from going to where you were on the side fields by where the offense is. And I'm kind of walking through like the fans, and I go past the security guard back to the safe media area, and he puts a hand on me. He's like, "Whoa, you can't bring a beer in here." You're like, and I was like, "What? Oh, it's a water."
I can do.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I get like they're rejecting me because they think I'm some schlep, and then they think I'm bringing a beer into the media area on the practice field. I just want to go see if the Kirk Cousins is playing. that Justin Jefferson?
That's what I was going to say. You start doing a gritty in front of the guard.
Yeah.
Yes,
Gritty past him.
Just do the gritty.
Oh, my God. That's what I should have done. Yeah. So I know they did a walkthrough, and I don't think you were out there. It was just kind of a walkthrough, but can we kind of zoom out here now that you've taken in like a week of training camp practice and just go through some like high level Judd's camp notes or thoughts? Because now it's like, all right, there's been a week of practice. We got the big primetime night practice tonight. We got the first game is in a week, I think,
Thursday.
week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So a week from today in Seattle.
Yep.
So
give us a few like big picture perspective camp notes from watching the first week at Twin Cities Orthopedic Performance Center.
All right. I love this. And I will give you big picture. And I will start with this. I'm going to start with linebacker, okay? Because I feel like we haven't talked a lot about this. And I'm not talking about the pass rushers. I'm talking about the inside linebackers, Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks last year. Brian Asamoah and Jordan Hicks this year. So I think Phil would agree from his time at practice that this defense, what they're going to do is largely, I think, going to be based on speed, deception, but there's certainly going to be, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, there's certainly going to be some youth out there. Like, this is not going to be a bunch of long in the tooth veterans, nor can it be, because the speed that's going to be required, you can't just be like, it's Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith, and we're going to run this back. So wisely, they are not going to. But I think one thing that has stood out to me is this. Jordan Hicks, who is going to be the green dot guy. So that's the guy that gets the calls, defensive calls. I would take it from Brian Flores into his helmet. Mm-hmm. Jordan Hicks is going to play a lot. Jordan Hicks is going to be relied on a lot. And I'm very curious to see how this turns out, because I don't know if it's because he was not put in a position to succeed enough last year. But, the linebacker play, quite frankly, often didn't look great. And I suspected part of it was because you were going with two veterans, because when Asamoah got his chance, like, his speed was obvious. And Brian Asamoah is going to be an important part here. But don't think or sleep on Jordan Hicks as far as his role. My theory is this. My theory is that on the back end of the defense, Harrison Smith is basically going to be a coach on the field / an instigator. But Jordan Hicks, I think, is going to play very much, or the intention is to have him play that same role from the linebacker position. So don't be surprised if Jordan Hicks plays a ton of snaps, that if Brian Asamoah comes off the field at times and Jordan Hicks does not. I think Brian Flores is going to put a lot on Jordan Hicks' plate, because there's going to be a certain complexity that they do need some veterans.
Yeah, I'm going to defend Jordan Hicks a little bit here too. He was better than people thought last year, but it's because he was really good in the run game. Now, as a defense, the Vikings were largely bad in the run game, but where Jordan Hicks got dinged a lot, and it was even more glaring because he was playing next to Eric Kendricks, who was also slowing down and aging, was in the coverage game. So if you go, and this is just PFF's perspective, there's probably other people that would have different scouting opinions on this, but of the 89 qualified inside linebackers in the NFL, Jordan Hicks ranked 13th in run defense grade, which is pretty damn good. They also have a tackling grade on here for these linebackers, and he was 11th out of 89 in tackling grade. He only had a 6% missed tackle rate last year. We'll hit the football sounder for that one. That's right. Yeah. Coverage was a whole different story for Jordan Hicks. Out of the 89 qualified linebackers, inside linebackers, he was 65th in coverage grade, and opposing quarterbacks would... you saw with your own two eyes, would sort of carve him up for a 119 passer rating when targeting someone in his vicinity. So how many times did we make the joke during the season where if you could change the Vikings logo, it would be like aging linebackers trailing a running back or a tight end over the middle of the field? But the fact that he can still be effective as a run-stopping linebacker, and maybe this system and playing next to a faster, younger, more spry Brian Asamoah,
yes,
maybe those things help Jordan Hicks going into his second year with the Vikings.
I think you just want to hope that he has the speed to keep up in this defense, right? Like, that's what we've been talking about with not just having the right players, but do they have the scheme and the speed to keep up? And does Jordan Hicks fit that bill? Which I think the correct answer is no, but maybe because he's a veteran, you can't just trust so many unproven guys, which the Vikings are basically doing on this defense too.
Well, one thing that's really important with this defense, how many times have we talked in the first week of practice about they love to crowd the line of scrimmage. They'll have a single high safety back, bring Harrison Smith up, or maybe it's literally like no safeties back, but linebackers sitting up in that A gap, right, when the ball is snapped. If you're not coming on a blitz, you got to make up 5 or 10 yards of ground, because instead of standing back 5, 8, 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, you might have to bail back into coverage and play catch up. So that's something to work on, or to watch, I guess, with Jordan Hicks this year.
And get your finger, please, on the football button, because what I'm about to say is going to blow your mind. The big nickel comes into play here as well. The big nickel. So one thing I've noticed the big nickel, which of course starring as the big nickel is Josh Mettelus.
Nick.
Josh Mettelus.
Big nickel package. Anyway, what they're doing is they're taking a defensive lineman off the field, or a lineman off the field. So Hicks and Asamoah are staying. So if you're in big nickel and they pass, I would argue that there's probably some type of option where Metellus, because he is the nickel, is playing a hybrid role that really makes him a linebacker. So maybe the reliance, like if you basically think of the big nickel as Metellus being a linebacker in some ways, right? Mm-hmm. That gives you Asamoah and Metellus out there. And so Hicks's responsibilities, from what we're talking about a season ago, probably shrink a little bit as far as being burned in coverage. So I do think that there's a bunch of options here, but it's become very clear that I think there's a enormous trust in Jordan Hicks and Harrison Smith, because to Dex's point, you can't just send all kids out there and hold your breath and hope. So it's going to be a very interesting dance here.
Yeah. Real quick on the football sounder. So someone hit us up yesterday on Twitter, but they were out at Vikings practice like yesterday or 2 days ago, and they were talking to each other, like watching practice, and one of them said to the other, like, football, they like did the football sounder, and then someone sitting behind them said, "Did you just do the football sounder?" Oh, I listen to Purple Daily, too. So that's awesome. Football. If you guys are yelling the football sounder at Vikings practice, then you are truly a member of the Purple Daily lifestyle and community.
Absolutely. All right. On to another football thing that I have seen. So I think the cornerback competition is very clearly, without a preseason game being played yet, heck, without a night practice yet, which is going to take place at TCO tonight, I think it's clearing itself up. And I think here's how it falls. Because I do think there's competition left, but I think the amount of people in the competition is changing. So Byron Murphy Jr., my guess is for sure starts outside, and my guess is at the start of the season moves inside in the traditional nickel, not to be confused with the big nickel starring Josh Metellus. Okay. Caleb Evans, hopefully, because he had 3 concussions last year, can avoid those problems. Caleb Evans, I think, is very much in control. There is nothing that indicates that he is not a starting outside corner as well. Joanne Williams started training camp as the outside corner when Murphy went inside in the traditional nickel. But in the last practice I was at, Mekhi Blackman got some of the run, both outside and inside, and they clearly like him. Third round pick back in April. We talked about this, I think, on yesterday's show. Andrew Booth Jr. was injured and left practice. I don't expect him to practice tonight. He can't stay healthy. It's a problem. But even before that, he was very clearly outside, I think, right corner, second team. And this reminds me a little bit of the Lewis Cine thing a year ago, because a year ago, coming into camp as a rookie, Lewis Cine did not get a sniff of first team. He might have worked a couple reps, but I mean, it was very clear that job had been won in OTAs and the mandatory mini camp as well. I think we're seeing a repeat here. So no matter what Booth's status is from a health standpoint, I think the only competition is how quickly and how much Mekhi Blackmon is going to press Joan Williams, who I think because he's a veteran does start the season as the outside as an outside guy. I think he does. But I think as far as the competition, because Booth, second round pick, so you would have expected that he would have competed for a starting job. I think Booth, barring injuries to other guys, has no shot at starting the season. I think he's going to be a backup or hopefully not on the injured list.
Do you have any sort of context so far for how Byron Murphy has looked in practice? Just kind of watching with your own. Has he stood out one way or the other? Or it's
not really
hard to tell because it's okay.
Yeah, and I've watched the cornerback receiver drills, and I've seen him go against Jefferson. Shockingly, he got beat. Yeah. But no, it's hard to tell. It's probably not fair to judge. I guess my biggest concern with him is the fact that he missed a good portion of last season because of injury.
Yeah.
And the depth here is not great. Like, there's not a lot of depth here. So, but I do think it's worth noting that a week into training camp, I don't think Andrew Booth has had a shot at a starting role coming into camp. It's really, really clear that Williams and Blackmon might compete, but that's probably it.
And maybe I'm jumping ahead with your camp notes here, but is Lewis Cine still very firmly entrenched with the twos? Like, they're mixing in big nickel, they're bringing Mettelus, and you got Bynum and Harrison Smith, and Cine is getting no sniffs of any of that, right, with the first team.
Cine and Mettelus are the second team traditional safeties.
So interesting.
And I don't think I've seen Cine. Say that fast. I don't think I've seen that in any practice where he has gotten first team reps. Now, he might have mixed in and I missed it, but as far as anything substantial, Phil, since they put pads on Monday and started, actual like competitive team drills, I have not seen that. So I think he is very firmly a special teams guy and a backup safety.
So that draft is still very much, I'm still giving it the full year. I want to see a whole year play out. And once we get done with the full second season, we can start to kind of drill down and judge that draft. But
yes,
Lewis Cine was the first ever Kwesi draft pick. Right now, going into his second year, he is really, unless there's an injury, nowhere near starting.
Correct.
Andrew Booth Jr. is kind of the same way. Injuries are probably the biggest reason, but he's not. Even if he was healthy, he wasn't guaranteed a starting spot, right?
But the fourth round pick is, so
fourth round pick.
Interesting.
So yeah, Ed Ingram started all year last year, but he was also probably the worst starting right guard in the NFL. But we'll see. Give him this year. Brian Asamoah could play a key role here if that's a third round pick, right? And then a Caleb Evans, if he becomes a starter for you, awesome. I'm just looking through like the other handful. Jalen Naylor is on this list, Ty Chandler. So there's still hope here. They drafted 10 players in 2022. But it obviously looks bad when your first 3 picks in the first 2 rounds are all either backups or busts at this point. So, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think the problem there is that Kwesi bailed so far back because he was at 12 and he bailed to the last pick. And then, like, it's weird, too, because there's a very good case to be made that drafting a safety at that point didn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And so I think the top end of that draft is going to cause a perception that the draft stunk, which might not be totally true.
Well, what's kind of amazing now, and we knew this at the time too, but I was trying to give the guy the benefit that, he had no reason. There's no reason for us to not say, all right, well, let him put his fingerprints on this thing and see. But the thing that you thought on draft night a year and a half ago was, they already have Harrison Smith and I believe Cam Bynum, right? Yeah. Like, they had those guys at the time. And they still have those guys right now, 2 years after the draft, and they're both blocking Lewis Cine. Although I think if Lewis Cine was good enough, if he was a first-round pick caliber player, he probably would have surpassed Cam Bynum, right? Yeah.
Yes. And this is now 2 defensive coordinators, one incompetent, one competent, who have agreed.
Yep.
Like, if Donatel and Flores in evaluations agree, the player's probably a suspect.
Yeah. Super interesting.
So
super interesting.
But long story short, don't draft a safety in the first round. Unless it's a surefire Canton Hall of Famer, don't draft a safety in the first round.
You
can find safeties.
And we're jumping it here to call anyone a bust before their second year. But, process-wise, drafting a guard in the second round, I think if you're drafting a safety in the first round and a guard in the second round, you better be freaking damn sure that those guys are plug-and-play starters from day one.
Yeah,
right?
I don't disagree. Yes, you're right.
If you're drafting a running back in the first round, if you're drafting a linebacker, a non-premium position in today's NFL in the first or second rounds, it better just be like, this guy was 10 slots was the best player on our draft board.
Yeah.
So, all right. You got any other big picture notes here? Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, let's talk quarterback. Okay. Because I came on here and you know what? I'm not going to back off. In one-on-one drills, when the pocket is not collapsing, of course, that's not how football is really played. Jaren Hall does have a very good arm. I'm very impressed. It's not that it's that strong, but it's accurate. But just to be very, very clear, a week into training camp, I can basically promise you, Nick Mullins, who hasn't always looked great himself, has this team made. Nick Mullins is going to be Jaren Hall, and Phil saw firsthand evidence of this. Jaren Hall is not prepared. So this whole thing of, he could back up. Maybe someday. That's absolutely true. But Kevin O'Connell, who lives and dies with a quarterback, it hasn't happened, but you can't assume it won't. If Kirk gets hurt, you can't send Jaren Hall into a game right now.
Yeah, but it's also more than just that. That is the first reason why you're right. Nick Mullins is going to be the backup quarterback, and Jaren Hall, he's flashed a little bit here and there, but he's like a full year of molding before you would not want to put him into a game. I don't think this year, But beyond that part of it, Kirk Cousins kind of treats backup quarterbacks like assistant coaches. That's why he loved having Sean Mannion around. Mannion was a great sounding board for him, a great study partner for him, and kind of an assistant coach in the room. And even yesterday at Kirk's press conference, I don't know if you guys caught this clip where Kirk mentions they were kind of asking about coming out with the number 66 jersey, the Ryan Wright jersey, and he was like, training camp can be kind of monotonous, and so I like to come out here and provide some comedic relief once in a while and goof around and tell jokes. But then he said, I did tell Nick Mullins, hey, if I'm getting a little too goofy and if I'm going a little bit too far, I want you to rein me in. And yeah.
Is he going to come on the clown suit?
But he's telling Nick Mullins, man, hey, he talks about Nick Mullins as if Nick is kind of like his assistant coach or something, or his, which you kind of, when you're as durable as Kirk is, the backup is there to sort of help service your studying and everything else. And even in quarterback, the Netflix series, he's talking about how, Nick Mullins kind of taught me to use my phone to record the play calls into so I could, internalize them faster and then spit them out. So I think there's other guys, like the Tom Brady's of the world. It doesn't really he's looking at Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels historically as his sounding boards and whatnot. It doesn't really matter if it's Ryan Mallett or R.I.P. by the way, or Kevin O'Connell or Jimmy Mallett. G.
Yeah.
But so that's another reason why you're not going to rip Nick Mullins out of the fabric of this thing, because he is clearly an important sidekick for Kirk behind the scenes.
Unfortunately, too, Phil, Kirk was asked about Jaren Hall. His response did not lead me to believe we're going to get a story anytime soon about him
not mentoring
Jaren Hall. His response was, "Oh man, he's had a lot thrown at him. Basically it was the old, I wonder if he's going to sink or swim, but I ain't throwing him the preserver, the life preserver."
Come on, Kirk.
So I don't think we're going to get the I'm mentoring him. And look, I mean, Kirk is busy. Kirk is very clearly worried about Kirk and the first team, which he should be. But that response did not, because he didn't say, I'm working with them or we're talking at night. I think he just said, he's an important part of our room, which means he probably shuts up and listens.
Which is what he probably should do. Yeah.
And I think you're spot on, though. I think the fact that I think Kevin O'Connell knows too, Kirk's personality is probably best to have a quarterback, a veteran backup that he sees as a complete ally.
Yeah,
That's
and
a really good point.
I want to make a distinction because I did compare Sean Mannion. If Nick Mullins had to play in a game or play for a month, the Vikings have a much better chance to win football games with Nick Mullins than they did with Sean Mannion.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be clear, he's a better backup all over the place. Okay.
Last one, the running back position. And I guess I will form this as a question. Is the depth chart clearing itself up? Because obviously Dalvin Cook's replacement is Alexander Mattison. And that being said, we don't know. I mean, I don't think that Alex is going to carry the ball as much as Cook did, but there's no question that he is atop the depth chart written in ink. After that, though, with Kene Nwangwu missing practice a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure if he's going to take part in the night practice tonight or not, but if he missed a day, I won't be surprised if he does not. I told you guys coming out of the offseason camps that I could have made a case that the depth chart then went Madison, Nwangwu, Chandler, McBride. Well, with Kene out, I think that might start to clear things up a bit. And this, of course, depends on if he's out for, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks. But Ty Chandler got all the work in practice a couple days ago. I saw him fumble the ball. That can't happen. But that being said, I think right now, if you saw the depth chart, it would definitely go Madison, Chandler, Nwangwu, and McBride sort of the wild card because the fact that Kene was out definitely got Dwayne McBride some more carries. But just through injuries and wear and tear, I think that the depth chart might clear itself up. And I do think that the backup running back is going to play a lot more probably than Madison did behind Cook, where he literally would come in for situational times to spell him and series, but there was no committee role there. I think that there very well might be some type of committee role now.
It is so refreshing that the Vikings are done with this highly paid running back commitment thing. Just go in with and Alex Madison deserves a chance to get the bulk of the carries, but to not feel obligated to, get a guy going or whatever. It's like that position is no longer about, unless you're a Derrick Henry or something in his prime. It's no longer about get the guy going, right?
Right.
So I like that they have full freedom and flexibility now in this sort of post Dalvin Cook world. And Dalvin has not signed, right? He visited the Jets and he was at practice and they chanted his name, but
nothing's happened yet. Nope. And I would the Jets do make sense for him, but who knows? So Cook's out there, Fournette is still out there, Ezekiel Elliott is still unsigned, right?
Mm-hmm. But Jonathan Taylor just demanded a trade officially.
Yeah. So of the backs currently in the league, who would you consider paying a damn good contract?
No one.
None of them. But this is the thing. God, we got to get to random Viking here because we have a bunch of other stuff to record today. But since we just opened up this conversation,
I mean, yeah,
this whole cry for running backs are getting screwed. It's not fair to running backs. It's not fair. This is the most visible competitive sports league in the world. These are multi-billion-dollar franchises that are fighting and clawing for inches of competitive advantage. If running backs move the needle for wins and losses, somebody would pony up and pay one of them 15 or 20 million. Quarterback salaries have gotten completely out of control. Don't you think that the league, if there was some conspiracy to push down the pay for a position or something, and that's the thing. If you're going to pay running backs more money, then you're going to take money away from another position because it's all within a salary cap structure.
Yes.
So the answer is, if you aren't helping the passing game on a dynamic level, then you're probably not going to be as valuable. And that goes for offense and defense. The reason why linebackers are suppressed in value is because they aren't as integral to stopping an opposing team's passing game. They're not edge rushing and sacking quarterbacks, and they're not on an island covering wide receivers. It's not that they're not valuable, but they're not as valuable as the guys that are integral to stopping opposing teams' passing game, right? And same for the offense. A tackle, a quarterback, a wide receiver, a pass-catching tight end are more valuable for chunking yards in the passing game. So I don't know why people are so confused about this. It sucks if you're a running back today because you're kind of getting screwed at the bottom of a market, but I don't know.
The problem too is they've I guess met a couple of weeks ago on a Zoom call or something to talk about how can we get the market adjust. It's not going to adjust. You came to an agreement again. This is why you guys should quit your union, because the union agreed to it, and quarterbacks get paid, receivers, cornerbacks, right? But this is not like it's not like the running backs were left out here. Oh, let's not talk to them, right? Tight ends can complain too.
But
tight ends got to complain too.
Not really though. Like, it's not a union problem. It's a position value problem.
Right, but the running backs are like, how can we get paid more? How can you find a way to get us more? Well, your union agreed to, in a salary cap league, right? They agreed to a salary cap, and how a team chooses to disperse its payroll or to pay guys is up to them completely.
Right, but if there was no...
So I agree with you.
If there was no salary cap, first of all, the league would crumble because teams like the Green Bay Packers and, quite frankly, Minnesota Vikings that don't have... If we all of a sudden were like, all right, now we have...
Cowboys would be really good, though.
Yeah, well, the Giants. Revenue sharing is no longer what it was, and if you're a small market, you got to figure it out. Sorry.
Yes.
But let's put that aside for a second. If there was no salary cap and it was just go spend as much money as you want on players, running backs would probably make a little more money because like there'd be more money going around, period. But receivers would spike more and quarterbacks would spike more. So I guess if you're a running back, I guess you got to learn how to catch passes more frequently or something.
Well, and that's where that's where Barkley intrigues me. Now, the fact he tore up his knee, 3 years ago, probably scares teams. But Saquon Barkley intrigues me because of that. Like, he can catch. But yes, Dalvin Cook, as he currently is at his best, is not going to or shouldn't break the bank because his skill set isn't good enough. Like, if you are Derrick Henry and you are Mr. Bell Cow, right? You're just a big guy who's going to run through people. 1978, that was awesome. But now, your payday is going to stop at some point because your versatility is not enough. But it does seem like there has been an agreement of let's just suppress the salaries, and I get it. But again, that goes back to tight ends. Outside of, Kelsey is underpaid. Tight ends are not paid nearly as much as they probably should be because they're tight ends. It's why, who was that about 5 years ago? Didn't Jimmy Graham at his height try to get reclassified as a wide receiver?
I believe for franchise tagging, right?
Yes, and they're like, whoa, hold on a second here. So yeah, you're right.
Where I do disagree, and we can get to random Viking is, I don't think there's been like a conspiracy meeting behind the scenes that we're gonna single out running backs. It's just a natural evolution of the game. Like, it's just, Team C. Look at the Vikings. Oh, let's devote a ton of money to Adrian Peterson for all those years and do what? Win 8 games every year? It was fun. He was awesome, but and he ran for 2,000 yards once. But anyhow, let's do some random Viking of the week here, presented by our friends over at Livia, Judd, helping Purple Daily listeners lose all kinds of weight the last couple years.
Indeed, and here's the great news. Look at that guy right there, huh? 40 pounds down. Here is the best news, too. If you want to look like Sports Dad, if you want to drop those excess pounds, if you're tired of clothes that fit you a year ago not fitting now, Livia Days have arrived. That's right, the best deal of the summer. Join today. You're going to get 50% off your personalized program. You're going to lose 10 pounds or more in your first 2 weeks. You're going to feel great. You're going to start to look great. And guess what? From there, the weight is going to come off. And here's the best part. The dietitians and nutritionists at Livia are going to help you keep that weight off. And that's why they've been voted Minnesota's best weight loss program year after year. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com, inside or outside the state. So if you are a PD fan, let's say in New York City, and you're like, Judd, this program sounds great, but I'm not in town, it doesn't matter. It can all be done virtually. Your first step is Livia, Livea.com. And of course, as always, tell them the guys from Purple Daily told you to join a program that works.
Also, EcoFun has been a great supporter of ours here in 2023 on Purple Daily and across Score North. And they have so many fun toys for you to get into. So we got ATVs, we've got scooters, we've got souped up golf carts, and we've got electric bikes. Yamaha, Bentelli, and Scootstar electric bikes are in stock. Take the evil hills out of biking with a new electric bike. You can test ride one at either of the EcoFun stores as well. There's one in Forest Lake off 35, and there's one in Burnsville off 35W and County Road 42. You can check out the inventory at ecofunmotorsports.com. ecofunmotorsports.com. scorenorth.com and tell them that Purple Daily and or Score North sent you in. It's time for the random Viking of the week here, gentlemen. Declan has the clues today because Judd pulled a fast one last week and had us stumped for like 10 minutes. I finally guessed Mike Tomlin correctly. We were thinking players. Judd threw a coach at us. It's like the third coach ever on Random Viking. So that was my 11th career win. Declan has 28. Judd has 54. And I keep saying that we're going to redo the standings going back to when we started doing a three-way dance here. And I will at some point. But Mike Tomlin, Alex Boone, Robert Tate, Erasmus James, and Tyrell Johnson are the last 5 Random Vikings. Losers out. So Declan has the clues this week. It's Phil versus Judd. 3 incorrect guesses each. If we hit a third, we are eliminated. We can ask Declan questions. He can refuse to answer. It's up to him.
All right. This random Viking of the week, I'm going to give you this one right away. Rushed for 16 touchdowns in his career. 16 rushing touchdowns for this random Viking of the week.
I'm just going to do a control F to see if this person, I have a guess.
Interesting approach.
Nope, not that person. We already
interesting approach.
I love this approach. This is great.
No, it's fantastic. The anti-Zolgad.
This random Viking of the week was a first-round draft pick.
But you didn't say from what team. Very savvy, Declan.
This random Viking of the week wore the same number for every team he played for.
I just searched 3 different, and we've done all 3 of them in my on my list here. So
same number every team he played for.
Mm-hmm. This random Viking of the week appeared in a Super Bowl halftime commercial for Boost Mobile in 2010. It was for the 2009 season, but the Super Bowl played in 2010 of January. But he appeared in a halftime commercial for Boost Mobile. I don't know if that's still around or not. I don't think it is.
The game that the Vikings should have been in is what you just said, right? Colts Saints.
Yeah.
Bringing up, just basically ripping the scab off for everyone out there. Phil, are you going to guess?
No, I'm not yet.
You're either going to guess or you're constipated. I couldn't figure out which one.
It's a little of both right now.
Because you're
actually. Yeah. These are great clues here.
First round pick.
Hold on a second. So, rushed for 16 touchdowns. First round pick. Wow, dude.
This random Viking of the week has 41,000 followers on Instagram. He's active too. He posted just a couple weeks ago at the ACC Championship with his children. It looks like he was at Tahoe.
Oh, the golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Those
might be his grandkids.
I feel like you're throwing us off with something. I feel like there's a.
I don't think so, man. I think I'm on it, but I can't think of.
This random Viking of the week was 6'1", 195 pounds.
Okay. I have a guess.
Okay.
Let me see if we've done this one before. All right. I feel like this person rushed for more than 16 touchdowns, but Donovan McNabb.
Damn it. This random Viking of the week, head coach Denny Green said he doesn't take crap from anybody. When they signed him, they signed this Viking, and Denny said, he doesn't take crap from anybody.
Done that one. I'm just like control F-ing all these like.
Doesn't take crap.
This random Viking of the week.
We done him too. What?
I'm pretty sure we haven't done this guy. I had to do like a double check. If we've done it again, that's great.
Whoa,
but I don't think we did.
Is that great?
Whoa, pretty sure.
It's not on my
I will
list.
say this. Do you have the list?
Yeah.
Can you control F it? It doesn't. I would say this. If we've done this person, I think we should keep going with the game.
Yeah.
Because it's all even.
Yeah.
I'm fine. It's just very controversial when the host isn't quite sure.
One laptop is.
I expect more from Bob Barker than this.
No, we have not done this random Viking.
Okay.
I expect more from Carson Daly.
That's
Regis Philbin.
this random Viking of the week helped lead the Vikings to the playoffs. In his career, he played in 10 playoff games, but only 6 of them were starts.
This is really good, Declan. This is really good. You're doing great. Lead Vikings to the playoffs.
This random
hold on.
Viking of the week was the 5th overall draft pick in his class.
Dude, this is insane.
Hold on. Okay, so I don't think it's a running back. It's not a running back, is it?
No, it's not. There's no way.
It's not a running.
There's no way it's a running back.
It's not a running back. It's just not.
Okay.
Randall Cunningham.
Eh.
Okay.
We've already done him, right? I guess we haven't done him, so bank that one for later.
Random.
There's yours when you go next.
I do that all the time when like you guys guess or we just bring up a name. I always write it down like, oh, it'd be a great random Viking.
That's a stupid guess.
This random Viking of the week won a Comeback Player of the Year award and was a one-time Pro Bowler.
The 16 rushing touchdowns thing is fascinating.
Rich. It's not a first round pick.
I don't want to give that one yet.
Who was that? Who's after that?
This random Viking of the week has advocated for medical marijuana in the past and recreational marijuana.
I don't think this was the 5th pick, but I'm going to take a guess because he probably didn't rush for a ton of touchdowns, but he definitely rushed at times. Jim McMahon.
Ding, 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 ding. Jim McMahon.
Dude, it's a great one.
Jim McMahon.
Dude, that was bravo, Declan Goff.
Great job.
Bravo, Declan Goff. That was good. You know what? You were inspired by my Casey Blake.
I was.
Making it as weird as possible. You made it weird, and I like weird.
I 100% was inspired by Casey Blake.
All right,
Didn't
that's
tell
really
you
good.
Any passing stat, really? I mean, Phil sniffed out a quarterback pretty quick, and so did then Judd, but...
Yeah, no, Phil sniffed out the quarterback first.
I went back. I thought it was Jeff George at first, but we did Jeff George. And then when you were like, oh, we may be confusing here. So I knew it was a quarterback, and I didn't go back. I went as far back as Warren Moon in my mental bank. I didn't think you would go that far back, though. So
no, that's where Declan threw a curveball.
Yep.
It was right in Judd's wheelhouse, man, right there.
QB, I was gonna say QB wins was a big stat for this guy because he had a ton of QB wins.
Yep. Yeah, no question about
it. And
it.
then the Super Bowl winner, I was gonna say, but a 2-time Super Bowl winner because he won the backup with the Packers.
No, you were good.
But yeah, I thought that'd give it away.
You know who has a bunch of wins? Finch Home Solutions, just racking up wins in people's houses.
That's because when Cody Finch and his team show up at your home, guess what? You're going to get answers, you're going to get solutions, and most importantly, if it's any electrical issues in your home, you are going to get the problem solved because Finch, Cody and his team, they are problem solvers. They'll come to your house. They'll be quick. They'll be efficient. They will be helpful. And right now, I've actually got an offer from Finch, talking to Cody this morning, in fact. A free electrical panel inspection or $199 off on a home safety inspection. So $199 for a complete home safety inspection from an electrical point of view, or a free electrical panel inspection. If your panel is older than 25 years, you should most definitely have it checked. Again, Finch is going to get the job done. It can be huge. It can be rewiring your entire home. Heck, it can be installing an outlet. Call Finch and they will be at your house in a jiffy. They do great work. And of course, as always, tell them the guys from Purple Daily sent you. 612-357-2604 or finchhomesolutions.com. Easy to fill out form right there. They can take all the information and show up at your house, finchhomesolutions.com, and get any issues taken care of.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here on this Thursday edition of Purple Daily, Daily Vikings Entertainment.